So guys, I'm here to talk to you today about the collection of data under EPR. I feel this is me channeling my best Chris Whitty moments, guys, so you will hear me saying quite proudly, next slide please, as we move through the deck. Purpose of this update really today is to tell you where we are around data collection, what responsibilities you have, and to showcase some of the support that's available. So some of this will be very, very familiar to you, for those especially who have seen my appearances on YouTube. I do tell my family now that I'm an accomplished YouTuber. We've presented this information through a couple of formats before, but obviously as deadlines approach, I just want to make sure that everybody's on the right page and they know what support is available to get your data in. So obviously large producers should report the packaging data to the regulator. You have to do that, you have to create an account on Report Packaging Data online service, and that is hosted on gov.uk. You need to, for those of you who aren't part of a compliance scheme, you need to enrol as a producer to do that. You have to produce and report up both your packaging data, commonly referred to as POM, placed on market data, or I've also heard it called in industry your tonnage data, and also your organisational details. That's a bit of a catch-all for one of potentially up to 3 files around brand and partner information as well. So all of that has to be done either using your RPD account if you're the responsible person, the approved person of the producer, or by nominating a compliance scheme to do this on your behalf. So the data submission periods are for 2023 compliance year are from January to June and July to December. But you'll remember from last year, we talked quite extensively about the dates, the coming into force dates of the legislation. So where you don't have all the data from January to June, you can just report your data from when you were legally obliged to in March and through to June instead. That's really important to understand that there's a differential there, but we still will scale your data up to cover the full 12 months. A little nuance for Wales for 2023, and again to do with laying date to the various legislation. Obligated producers in Wales don't have to report data from January to June, again to do with the coming into force dates of the legislation, but you can choose to report that data if you wish, so you can still use the same drop downs. There won't be any enforcement action if you don't report January to June, but I do urge you that it's perhaps in your best interest to report accurate data. Just a little reminder there that this data reporting for 2023, as you all know, is in addition to the normal reporting on NPWD, which is due by the 7th of April. And I've waited all week to say this. Can I have the next slide, please? So just a little bit of information here about where we are. So to date, we've got 5,125. That's as of the 14th of February, so it's likely have crept up a little bit now. But just over 5,000 fully approved enrolments on RPD from large producers. That's around the figure where there is a little bit of uncertainty this year, for 2023, as to exactly how many producers will be obligated. But we think it's probably a little bit north of that. So we do expect there's probably about 1,000 or more producers out there that haven't yet enrolled in RPD. We'd urge you to do so. Of the 5K or so that have already enrolled, we've got a little short of 2,000 producers have submitted their packaging data, and that includes 476 subsidiaries as well. Remember, there is a little bit of nuance and choice for producers as to how you report that data if you are a group of companies reporting for subsids. We've only got 1,744 producers that registered their organisational details and had those validated as well. So you can see there, that's a little bit south of where we'd expect it to be at the moment. But we think this is because of the regulatory position statement. So just to remind you, the regulators in each of the nations of the UK set out last year, that they wouldn't take any enforcement action for late submission as long as that data is submitted by the 31st of May this year. So we have got a little bit of extra time. But when we released that regulatory position statement, DEFRA also commented that it's helpful for you to make your best efforts to submit your data by the 1st of April. It helps us calculate your disposal costs and fees for 2024. So it feels like everybody in this room who's obligated under EPR has a bit of a vested interest in getting that data to us as soon as they can. My favourite part, Can we have the next slide, please? I just wanted to showcase, I don't know how many people on this call want to utilize these tools, but there is a CSV input tool. Effectively, what that does is it provides a much more simple interface in Excel compatible spreadsheet. Remember, other non-Microsoft products are available. But what it does is it helps you guide through the individual lines of your report up into RPD and provide some validation as well to make sure that the lines are coherent and match. There's an example below that there of what that looks like in terms of the output. Output is in standard CSV format. So those tools are available for you to use should you wish to, and we can give you that support to get that data packaged and prepared. Conscious a lot of our compliance schemes, etc., will be doing this activity for producers. They may or may not use that format to collect your individual data and group it together. But it's just a point to that in terms of it's available in the guidance, and we want producers who are feeling a little bit unsure to explore whether that's the correct tool for them to use. Can we go on to the next slide, please? So given that the numbers are a little bit low, I think I have a bit of a niggle in the back of my mind of, are we leaving it a little bit late? Is this part of your normal business practice? Do most people submit to the deadline? This is my first year running the report package and data project. We don't have good intelligence previously around producer behaviour. So it's a bit of a plea for me is thinking about what support is available and to chivvy people along a little bit in terms of making sure that we get that done on time. One of the things that's changed on report package and data in mid-February, it was actually Valentine's Day, the 14th of February, we released a small update into live service for RPD, which just improves the validation that we had and in some cases provides validation where there wasn't any existing validation. I'm going to cover that in a little bit of detail after I've taken some questions on the broader topic of reporting data. But just be aware now, if you try to submit data and it doesn't look right, you'll get a series of either what we call hard validations. You can't upload your data. It will actually block you. And the system is designed to explain those things to you. You shouldn't need to go leafing through guidance. Value your feedback on whether you think I've achieved that on this release. And there's also a set of softer validations, which remind you of things that may look incorrect about the data from our perspective, but may genuinely just be the data that you want to report. So hard validations will block your upload, softer validations just provide advice, and that should all be done within the RPD build. If you are struggling to create an account, submit your data, I'm conscious these are new regulations and a new way of doing this for producers this year that nobody is yet familiar with. This isn't people's day-to-day activity often. And reporting at this time of year will look, slightly different to how we reported on NPWD. We've got a help desk available that we don't get a huge influx of calls to, so you won't be certainly without a big spike in calls. You won't be stuck in a queue. You should get through to a real live human being. They triage calls for us. You've also got an email there as well. You can contact them on. I'll send all this information out post meeting. But they can be really, really helpful. What they do is they triage your question. You might have a technical question about how the regulations work. You might have a broader policy question, or it might be some of the quite simplistic stuff we get on through the IT system of, logging in passwords. I don't understand how to do X, Y, or Z. The help desk can talk you through some of that technical stuff, but they also provide you a bit of a routeway to policy experts within DEFRA to answer more detailed policy questions, and also a routeway to the regulators, which we track in order for you to get a response. Again, that's the regulator side is much more about the operability of the regulations as opposed to the policy behind them. So kind of in my head, there's kind of like 3 business funnels for those inquiries, all taken through the help desk, but kind of answered and come back to you through different parts of the business. We've got a really, really good record of getting where there's simple queries about IT, getting those back within 2 to 3 working days. You shouldn't have to wait very long for an answer to the question. The other thing we've provided as well is, again, we've done quite an extensive update of our guidance in the middle of February. And those templates are there as well to help you set out your data submissions in a logical way. And the guidance is there for you to check back and understand that you have done it in the correct way. One of the things that you can find on YouTube as well, if you're of the mind to go and look through something a bit more visually, we've got step-by-step guides on our DEFRA YouTube channel. If you struggle to find those, because they do move around a little bit, I think that's to do with the algorithm on YouTube. They're not always at the top of the queue if you visit the DEFRA YouTube channel. Our help desk has got the links. They can send you a link really easily by email or by telephone. And those bite-sized learning videos go in very, very basic detail, you know, faced off at people who don't necessarily have lots of IT capacity. They will show you screen by screen and click by click exactly what you need to do to set up an account, link with a compliance scheme, submit your data. There's a range of those there. Yes. Conscious this has been quite a detailed session, the second half. I've got just a really broad question to ask producer colleagues on the call. Is there anything else we can do in this space to help you guys in terms of making sure that we all get our data submitted on time and to the right standard? I don't think it's a point for discussion, Katie. It would be helpful to have that feedback either through our help desk or through the normal channels, Katie, through your comms team.
Okay, noted. I will make sure on the write-up that we actually state where you want that directed to. So they've got a link there. Caroline, were you going to come in, or were you going to just mention that? I'm jumping.
Saying the same thing as you again, Katie.
I apologise. We're both there. So yeah, we'll make sure that's very clear where we want to direct those through. So yeah, thank you once again, Mark. I'm going to move on to the quick roundup and comms and engagement. If I can have the next slide, please. Just we referenced it earlier. We were at the packaging event at the NEC last week. And this, again, we pushed heavily on some key messages there. And it was an exceptionally successful event. It ran over 2 days. We had speakers on the circular economy stage. There was Caroline and Peter speaking, also Margaret. Margaret has a dual hat on there. It was actually not a dual hat as the scheme administrator, but also as the facilitator for some of the sessions that are on the stages, which was great. We did find out that we were in the top 5% of all the organisations for stand presence. So that's data capture. That's not just people that we that whiz by and just grab because we don't have leaflets as such. It is data capture. So you zap on these tap and snap little devices, which is fantastic. So that again increases our subscription to newsletters or a way we can engage with people. We also had a good number of the team there covering on various policies and projects. And that we worked out, we engaged literally 22 people per hour. Now, you have to think about that. That's a lot of people to chat to. We do like talking in the engagement team and the comms, but it's really not just somebody who just comes onto the stand to say hi. It's somebody who has a specific question or something that they want to get information from or guidance. So that was a really good stat to have, and obviously that makes it equally encouraging for future events that we're going to do. So it was a really good show. The London Packaging event in September is the sister show to this one, slightly smaller, but again a very good one for key messages to go out. So my call out, which will again put an email or a way to actually capture this, is to understand any events you think or you feel we should be attending. Now, this doesn't have to be a stand presence because it was quite a big stand, as you can see on the screen there. It could be just a speaker session that you think is particularly valid that we should be there. So really, it was just a heads up on that. So we'll make sure that's in the write up just to let you know where to put your thoughts. If I can have the next slide, please. We do run these forums monthly, and ever increasing subscription, which is great. We put them in for 2024 way ahead of time anyway. So a couple do sometimes need changing, and the April ones do. Easter falls through a couple of weeks, which a lot of annual leave goes ahead, but also it crosses just follows Good Friday and Bank Holiday Monday. So we're just going to push it out a week. So that's just as a heads up. We'll make sure those dates are reshuffled in the various links and calendar invites as stated. Realise obviously today's agenda, the March agenda, is slightly smaller. That sometimes happens. The agenda is subject to change depending on what key messages we can release at the time. April's got a chunky agenda already, so we will make sure we give you a bit of a heads up in the newsletter closer to that time. So really, just as a just to be clear on where the next forums are going to stand. If I just have the next slide, please, and you'll see our lovely QR code for the resources and waste newsletter. So at this point, I'm going to close and appreciate your time, everybody. April's agenda's already filling up. So fantastic. Thank you all and have a good month.